Okay, can everybody hear us?
Thanks.
Okay, I got thumbs up, so that's a good sign.
Okay, Judy, ready? All right, we'll call the meeting to order now that we got the technical stuff worked out. We'll start with a prayer. I guess it's my turn this time, I think. Father in heaven, I ask you to be present with us today as we work through the county's business. You give us insight and diligence, and that we would always do it with an eye for the county's benefit in mind. In Christ's name, amen. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and Deanne is on by Zoom, is that correct?
No, she's gonna get, isn't the
No,
story, she's gonna get the
I'm
recording.
going to give her the recording because she is busy with elections.
Okay, then would you mind doing the roll call?
Yes. Commissioner Novsker,
Present.
Commissioner Bothell,
Present.
Commissioner Glover.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Okay, we have a quorum, adoption of the agenda. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the agenda?
On the agenda, under general business and administrative items where it's talking about the policies, is in the documentation. On the agenda, I guess it doesn't say that, but the PII policy is already approved. It was approved in April, and we just need to designate a new person as the PII,
As the person.
as the person that's,
So you can talk about that
Responsible.
when you get to that on the agenda.
but I wanted to make sure that that correction is made on the agenda.
Does that need to be corrected?
It says adoption of policies, and so the wording, I don't know,
You're adopting a policy with.
we're
names in
adopting
it.
one policy, we're just changing the person on the second. Anyway, okay,
I'm totally lost on that, but okay. Because I see HIPAA, PCI, and PHI compliance policy.
Let's talk about it when we get to that agenda item.
Yeah, I'm trying to find, see if I'm missing something on the agenda. All right. So we have that, and I agree with you. So I'm waiting for a motion on the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Okay, second, motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, okay. Public comment. Since I can't see anybody, do we have anybody for public comment? 3 minutes.
Jeff Owsley and Don Melgares are here for public comment. So I will unmute. Okay, Don is unmuted, and Don and Jeff are both unmuted. So whoever would like.
Go ahead, Don.
Thank you. Good morning. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
So I'm Dawn Melgares with the Soundless Valley Housing Coalition. I'm here with my partner, Jeff Owsley from CHAFA today, and we are here just to give you a quick update on our valley-wide housing study that we are working on with a large cohort of community leaders from around the valley. We have requested to be on an agenda at a later date, but we wanted to give you kind of an overview of what's going on, so it's something you can start talking about. Our housing study is looking at all 6 counties and 14 smaller cities within the valley that are often left out of housing studies. And we're hoping to bring together not only the data required to bring housing to the valley, but a great action plan that each county and community can use moving forward to bring that housing or better the housing they already have in their community, depending on what the data shows. We have applied for several grants and received over $150,000 in funding already for this process. And we are currently waiting funding from DOLA on a matching grant. If we get this matching grant, one thing that they are requesting is that every county and every jurisdiction on our list put something in the pot to have a little skin in the game. They're asking for a minimum of $500 per community and a maximum of $3,000 per community based on size. And that obviously will be something we talk about a little bit more, but we wanted you guys to really understand how this housing study is going to benefit Rio Grande County, Del Norte, and South Fork, which are the communities we're currently looking at in your county, and how it's going to bring not only the cohort we have currently, but developers and funders to your area to bring the housing that we know is desperately needed around the valley. Jeff?
Yeah, nice to see you all. Wish we could be there with you in Del Norte, but have the chance to go into the process more. It's really exciting. It's a first step towards fulfilling some good housing needs that we have in the San Luis Valley, and that's the main thing, is finding out what those needs are and putting some data to it. And so it's a big step. You might say it's a giant leap for mankind in the San Luis Valley to get this thing underway. So we're happy to do that. I miss you guys at CCI meetings and look forward to that after we're all done with this. But thanks for listening today, and we'll see you maybe on the 12th of November or when we're able to get on the agenda. Glad to see you all.
Good to see you. Good to see you, Don. I'm sorry we haven't been able to get you on the agenda here recently with everything going on.
It's completely understandable, but I think we're scheduled to be on at one of your November meetings. So we'll be seeing you guys soon with a full proposal of what's going on and what exactly we need from the county.
Great. Thank you so much.
John, can I make a quick comment? Can I make a quick
Yes.
comment before they get up? So
Come forward.
that's fine.
In the front row, I'll pick you up or up here.
That'll work. So just so you know, Don and Jeff, I'm the Director of Social Services for both Rio Grande and Mineral. And I appreciate the fact that you guys are doing that. Every time I'm in meetings and they're looking at community needs assessments, one of the top 2 issues is housing. So I think it's definitely something that the board needs to look at, and very excited that this is moving forward.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And since she spoke and she runs the county, she's the shadow government. Okay, thank you all so much. Is there any other public comment?
Does not look like.
Okay. We'll move on then to the consent agenda. Are there any corrections or questions on the consent agenda?
I'll just make a comment that our clerk to the board is busy with elections for this meeting and probably next week also. So your meeting minutes will be a little bit delayed in getting to you for approval, but they're in the works.
Okay. Anything else?
I would move that we approve the consent agenda.
Second. We got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Carries. Consent agenda is carried. Okay, and do we want to do a formal adjourn to?
Yes.
Okay. And that was one we need to talk about, because we've had a deal about a resolution on when we said as the Board of Commissioners, we're setting as that.
And it is a different body, even though you're the same people on that body. So the proper process would be to adjourn as the Board of Commissioners, reconvene as the Board of Social Services.
Okay, I'll take a motion for that.
Okay, second.
Okay, second, all in favor? Aye. Okay, we're now sitting as the Board of Social Services, and we have Jody Kern here to give us the update.
Sure. Good morning, you guys. So just a couple of things. The first thing on the agenda is the approval of the contract with San Luis Valley Behavioral Health to pass through the Promoting Safe and Stable Families grant. That grant you guys approved to get it from the state last month, and this is just passing it on to them. It's the exact same contract as last year for the exact same amount.
And I would move that we approve that.
Okay, Susan Botham moves approval on the pass-through for Promoting Safe and Stable Families. We have a second. Second. Okay, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
So here's the contract on. I need your signature.
Mine-
And Fernando's already signed it, so.
Okay. Do you have anything else for us, Joanne?
I do.
Oh,
So
okay.
commodities went fairly well. We had one exception with Tri-County, but I think we got that worked out. And we're continuing to do that. I just need to make sure from the board that you guys want us to continue with it now that we kind of know what we're doing. Our role in it is just basically handing it out.
And so Karen Share is the ones. It is so much nicer, so much easier. The goods show up pre-boxed. So we don't need as much staff as what was needed in the past. But I just want to make sure that you guys are okay with continuing
I
doing
have
so.
one correction on that, Jody. It's not that I think we got it worked out. It is worked out.
That's
It
fine.
will be handled.
What's that do to your staffing? Your workload?
We're okay with it. We've been doing it for years, John. And so it's just a different thing. Costilla County Public Health was the ones that would bus up the commodities and then we do have to box it up and do it. Now it's just arriving. There's a big semi that pulls up and we just hand it out.
Park out
Yeah,
there and
so
you
it's no different, but I just want to make sure that you as a board, because it is changing, that you guys are okay with us continuing to do so.
Oh, I think it's a good thing.
So how many commodity distribution sites do we have?
We have 3. So what happens is it shows up here at Del Norte at the annex. My staff runs it over to the seniors here in town. And then in Monte Vista, they're dropping directly at Tri-County because we don't have a van or any transportation to get it to Monte. So I arranged with Karen Share to actually drop on site at Tri-County. And then they drop at the Calvary Baptist Church is where they are dropping.
Okay, Tri-County and Calvary.
Correct.
Well, that's very nice that they have accommodated.
They do, because it's only, well, last month it was 20 and this month it'll be 14. So it's not like it's a big drop, but they're working with it because they appreciate the county being the boots on the ground because they're located in Colorado Springs. So it's kind of impossible for them to be here physically to do this. So it's a partnership that they need with us in the county, but I believe the citizens need that. And so, and my
So is
staff
this
likes
just an
it.
update or do you need to?
That's up to you guys, whatever you feel comfortable with.
I don't know that we need a formal action on that.
No, I just want
I
to make
think
sure the
just-
board's aware of what's
just
going
a-
on. It's awareness more, in my
It's
opinion.
an okey dokey.
So then the next thing is, just so you guys know, we're still continuing with management evaluations. I had a 4-hour meeting on Monday. I have another one tomorrow. It's been crazy with the amount of reviews from the state. Just so you know, that every 3 years, they review all of our programs and they have us on the same schedule for every program I have. So every program except child support has been under a review this year. So
How's that?
we're
Time?
fine.
You're okay?
Oh,
You're
yeah,
good.
we're fine.
Okay.
Let's see, what else do we have? Oh, just a follow-up on High Valley, just so you guys, as a reminder, that's still an outstanding item. I don't know if you guys need more information, if you guys need a work session, if you want a meeting with Adrian. I don't know where you guys stand with that.
Well, where do we stand with it?
So I sent you the packet. And
Okay.
so you guys were gonna look at it and get back to me. That's where we left it. So,
Okay.
yeah, so I don't know what you guys want to do with it.
Then some other things jump up in our face.
Yeah, no, and I understand that, so.
Okay.
But just a reminder that we are gonna have to make a decision at some point with them, so.
Right.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's see, the budget, do you guys have dates scheduled?
It's on the agenda.
Okay, all right, just let me know, so my calendar gets a little crazy, so I can make sure it works.
If you want to, I know you had other things to do, but that they'll be getting to that fairly quickly on the agenda.
Okay, all right, that works. And then just a reminder to you guys, I also sent another email, and this might be something that you need Judy to work on for you guys, is the countywide cost allocation plan. Before in the past, the money, so basically for HR purposes, county admin, different times like that, you guys would fill out this report and the state would reimburse you quarterly some money over here to help cover the costs for my department. That report used to be filled out here. That is no longer acceptable. And I sent you all the emails regarding that. It is not something that my department does. That's something admin needs to do. I also sent in the email the different companies that different counties, like Alamosa uses a firm, I think out of Virginia, and they pay about $6,000 a year, but it would be something that you guys could use for public health as well too.
This is a requirement. This
It is
takes
a
care of this.
requirement or you guys are gonna lose out. I think I looked, it was $30,000. So if you guys don't do that, that's a big chunk that you probably need to look at. My concern is if you don't contact these companies soon, you may not get on the schedule to have it done. So I just want to make sure you guys don't lose sight that you need to follow up on that.
Not, if we didn't do it, and we said social services is on its own for all this stuff. can we do that?
So we can't be on our own because of the fact that you guys do our payroll. You guys also sit as our board. So you really don't have that ability to say we're on our own. So there's just parameters.
Okay. And this is a federal thing.
Yes, it is.
And is this something that we have neglected in the past, or you're just saying that we need to keep that at the forefront?
So no, well, I sent you guys an email. When did I send it to you? On October 1st.
Okay.
So you guys have all this information.
And
You
you
have this whole
suspect
packet.
that the feds may put a similar requirement on other federally funded departments,
Yes,
i.e. public health, but we've not seen anything on that from that end yet.
correct. Well, at least from my perspective. But yeah, and all the requirements, everything, this came from the auditors of the state. So, but I just knew that with everything on your guys' plates, you probably just may not have been able to put some time to it, but I really think $30,000 is worth putting some time into it. So
Can you
I
get
will.
with me later? Because I was not aware of that.
that happened prior to.
Sounds like
to
some lobbyists got to the government.
Yeah, and the contact information that Alameda County uses, it's all there.
Okay.
Was this a partly a result of potential abuses?
I have no idea, John, where it came from. I don't know. And it's all explained in there and stuff. But, and there might be some links, so I'll forward the email to you as well. But I just strongly think the board needs to do something with that. Okay. And that's all I had for you guys, unless you have something else.
You had some days off.
I do.
Okay.
I don't remember off the top of my head, John. It's all in the email. So yeah, so sorry. Yeah,
As I scroll through.
yeah.
Okay, but you're gonna be gone some days.
A couple of days. I think there was 4 days. I put in there. One of the days is this Friday. So, yeah.
Okay, anything else? Anything of Jody?
I think so.
Okay,
So I'll have you guys adjourn from the Board of Social Services, and then I'll help and stay for the Healthcare Coalition grant document you guys need approved
which is,
next on the agenda.
Okay, I move that we adjourn from the Board of Social Services and reconvene as the Board of County Commissioners.
Second.
okay, all in favor? Say
Aye.
Okay, we are now reconvened as the Board of County Commissioners. Actually, the next item on the list is county official and department head reports. I don't know if we have anybody on that's gonna give a report.
We have Jack Rutter here, but his written report is going to come to your next meeting. Jack, did you want to say something at this point verbally? Let me allow you to do that.
Jack, you're muted.
There you
I think you unmuted him and then his computer might be muted.
There you
Yeah,
go.
my computer is real sensitive and I unmute and it mutes again automatically. But no, I'm good. We'll do the monthly report at the next one. And then from this month on, why I'll close my month out a week early and that way we'll have it for the first of the month.
Okay, Jack, are you back to work at Home Lake or are you still having to stay away?
No, I'm still at home. They're still quarantined at Home Lake.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other reports?
Looks like
Thanks,
nobody else here, unless you guys have something.
Okay, then we'll move on to general business administrative items. And the first one is the Healthcare Coalition. And it's listed as a COVID-19 grant. Is it transmogrified?
So just so you guys know, I am helping a little bit. I was voted onto the steering committee by outside agencies. So I'm already on the steering committee for the Healthcare Coalition. So since I'm sitting on those meetings anyways, I said I would help you guys with a little bit of this because you guys are the fiscal agent. And right now you don't have the capacity in public health with it. So, and I have a hard time being on a board and knowing things and not being able to make sure that to my best ability, it's doing what it needs to. So with that being said, the Healthcare Coalition Steering Committee, there is several pots of money. There's the original contract that you guys have, and you guys have already approved that contract. The contract and the paperwork in front of you, did I get it to you guys?
Yes.
Okay, so you should have the agreement from Public Health on the letterhead that it says that you guys are willing to be the fiscal agent for an additional $25,000 of COVID money for the Healthcare Coalition. And the steering committee did approve for their, to go on to you guys, that they're okay with accepting those funds. And they actually are working on a plan to disperse that into the community, I think around November 12th. So there will be requests in November coming back to the county to get that funds out to our medical community, because as we all know, the COVID cases are increasing and the hospitals are getting short on PPE. And so this would go for PPE to the ambulance districts, the hospitals, et cetera. And that hasn't been totally decided how it will be, but this will allow us to accept those funds from the state of Colorado to pass them on.
I have a question. I talked to Arlene recently and asked her about PPE. And I got the impression that they're okay on that there weren't any shortages, because I offered to maybe consider it in our CBRF grant.
Sure.
Are they short?
I don't know. That's just the conversations during those meetings. So
And they were
I'm
talking
not
about
there.
ambulance services and some things there.
correct.
So then there's also another 100,000 coming down.
There's a potential for another $100,000, but at this point in time, my thing is we need to make sure we meet the deliverables of the current grant, get this 25,000 spent, then we'll worry about additional funds at that point in time. Because otherwise you get too many pots of money and too much chaos going on.
Well, we've
So-
got an element of that. Do the 45 or the 50,000 floater out there,
From last year, the carryover.
the carryover status on that?
So my understanding of what the carryover is that the state has allowed the money from the last quarter of the fiscal year that was not spent to be carried over into this year. You guys did accept to be the responsible for the fiscal agent for that 45,000. We have that, and they are also working. And I think within hopefully the next couple of weeks, the steering committee will make a decision on how to award that 45,000 as well.
They're taking care of
Mhm.
how it's going to be spent.
Yep.
We've got a question on the original was 50, and then we spent
So-
some money on PPE.
I've been talking to Debbie, and I think between Debbie and Kaylee and myself, very little. Those two know it more than I do. I think they figured it out.
Okay, because we've got 3 orders in there. that
Yeah,
are
they've-
very
They're
confusing.
working on it, and we actually have a meeting at 1:00 tomorrow. Debbie and Ida and Kaylee and myself, because a budget is due to the state by October 31st for that grant. And so
For the
we're
45,000 or?
just in total, for the total
For the
budget.
2021?
Correct. And so
we
that
don't have a
45
budget. They
is,
didn't have a budget into them prior.
no, so the budget is in, but these are the quarterly reports to report on what's been spent so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then one of the questions I had, did they, when the CDPHE allowed us to get an extension for that 45 or 50, whatever it is, did that drop the requirement that we had to have things done by June 30th?
No, it just put it in there. It's still part of that June 30th requirement.
Okay, but we haven't spent the money and we haven't received the
No.
product by June 30th. That was the big.
Oh, you
push.
mean the prior June 30th? No, it
Yeah.
moved it to the next June 30th. So June 30th of
So they
2021.
moved it into
Mhm.
2021. So we're done with that because we had a problem with the invoicing.
Yeah.
Because we're supposed to have the product on June 30th.
Yeah.
The order wasn't placed until July 1st.
Right.
You're aware of that?
I'm aware of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
So,
so
yeah.
are all of these grants just for PPE?
It could be what the steering committee decides to be on. And so part of that 45,000 from last year is not going strictly to PPE. A couple of the items, and this hasn't been approved by the steering committee because they're still waiting to get information. Parts will go for PPE. Part of it is going to a strategic plan for the overall continuation of the healthcare needs in the San Luis Valley. They actually hired a company to do it. And it's one of the deliverables that is required to be under that is to have a strategic plan. And because nobody really has the time or expertise to do it, they've hired an actual company to do it, and they will have it done by December 31st. So that is one part of what that money is, but the breakout of what that 45,000 is going to is still on the table of
But
how
the-
it's going to
but
be
the steering
dispersed.
committee is negotiating that. with
Correct.
CDPHE, so whatever they decide to do.
Yep.
On the plan, you're talking strategic plan,
Mhm.
was that a deliverable that was under a previous contract?
I don't know, John. I'd have to go back and look. I don't know. I just know it's a deliverable, but I'm not sure which year,
Okay.
since things are kind of commingled with them allowing, I'm not sure which year
So, and we actually, in a sense, moved that 50,000,
to this year.
not only to this year, but it's effectively a different line item.
Correct.
Because
Yes.
it was stipends or.
Oh, yeah,
some
no,
such
that's
thing,
all
right?
moved. Yeah, the
None
stipends
of
got
that's
moved.
out, and CDPHE's worked on that.
Mhm.
Do you know if we've taken care of that downstairs or is there anything we have to do?
So that's what we're meeting tomorrow at 1:00.
You guys are gonna take care of that then?
Yep,
Okay.
that's our plan.
You're gonna be short one
Okay.
because we have 2 calls simultaneously.
That's fine. We'll make it work.
Got it covered. Okay, thank you.
So, but I need a
Okay.
formal approval for you guys to accept that
The
25,000
25,000.
as the fiscal. They did email me last night needing that back from us. So if you guys approve it, I will take it and get it sent to the state.
Got a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
A motion second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And Judy, I assume that was in this package. your
Yes, it
signature.
is.
Okay, thank you.
So
Do you
can
want me
you,
to sign it right
if
now?
you
and
could,
hand it to
John,
you?
sorry, but that way I can take it back with me and get it
It
sent
should
into the
be in
state.
order of your your actions are already made.
That one you don't need. That was mine. And just FYI, I always have mine, so you don't.
It's got a signature block on it. Is that the one I just
That's the
signed?
one you just signed.
Okay.
Yep, because like I had Fernando and everything.
I'm gonna put
So
this
look
over
for,
in the-
look for their letterhead. You want me to help you out?
Well, I can look, I just don't want to have
I think it's that one right there.
certificate.
Oh, no, that one.
Which, is that one?
The one that says public health, John, with the paper clip that's already.
Oh, that's public health. one.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, great, thank you. I was looking at social services, I'm sorry.
I know, it's weird. This isn't
Okay.
really my realm.
All right, I'll do this and hand it to you. Do you need copies of this? or-
I'll make a copy.
You guys will
Yeah,
take care of
I'll
that.
sit it in, but I'll make sure you have a copy because with anything, I believe this kind of stuff should be over here as well. So I will make sure that Judy gets a copy and Debbie as well.
Thank you.
All
There you are.
right.
Thank you, Jody.
Yep. no
Do you have
problem.
anything else for us?
I don't, but if the budget discussion's up, I will.
It's gonna be a little bit, it looks.
Well, just let me know when you guys decide when you want me to come and walk
Okay.
through the budget with you guys.
Okay.
That would be appreciated.
Great, thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we got that. Next item is the consideration of La Puente's request for certification of local government support.
And we have Amanda Pearson and is this Megan?
It's Teddy.
Thank you. So we have two representatives from La Puente here to make this request to you.
Yes, hello, Amanda Pearson. I'm the Development Director for La Puente, and I've invited Teddy Leinbach. He's an AmeriCorps that is working from or serving at a year of service at La Puente right now, doing a little more on the ground stuff. So if you have any questions about what he's been doing, you can ask. We were given the opportunity to apply for some COVID-related ESG emergency services grant funding. One of the requirements of that, kind of like what you just did with the health grant, is that the governing bodies approve or certify for that grant. We asked all of the county commissioners to certify. We appreciate the opportunity to come here. We don't get to talk to Rio Grande County very often, and we do a lot of work with the Rio Grande County folks. So glad to come here in person and answer any questions you have about this request.
Okay, do you have questions, comments?
I have heard in the past, and I would like to find out that La Puente does advertise to get homeless people to the valley. Is that accurate?
Absolutely not accurate. And I can tell you, we just did a survey of the people we're serving at the shelter right now, and less than 1% come from out of the valley.
So where are they from?
All over the valley. They're folks that are from relative. They live here. They grew up here. We serve all 6 counties, and people from all 6 counties end up in our shelter. We just took in a woman out of Saguache County a few months ago because she was evicted from her home. Her husband had died. She had no family, no place to go, and she was put in our shelter. It took us about 60 days. We're a 30-day shelter. It took us about 60 days to get her into housing. Now she's in her own house and with furniture and everything. So
what percentage of the people that you work with are from Rio Grande County?
I don't have those numbers at this point, and I would love the I mean, we serve a lot of people from Rio Grande County. Folks think that we're just the shelter, but we do eviction prevention. We do rapid rehousing. We do food bank. We do Adelante, which is a partner with your social services, does working together to help eliminate the barriers to employment and education for families that are served by social services, and some other preventative measures with social services. We do a ton, and I don't have those numbers today, but I would love an opportunity to come back and actually present what we mean and to the Valley and to your county and the services that we provide.
I have a question. As I understood that you needed this approval by today, is that correct? It's going to the San Luis Valley Board of County Commissioners?
My understanding is that we needed it last week, but that they'll give us till the 31st to get it to them. They have a kind of a buffer zone of time.
And we're a little unclear as to the actual purpose of the grant.
That I have that information for you today. We have in the Alamosa last fall or last summer, or maybe last winter, at the end of last winter, we had a young man of local who died of the elements, and the shelter was founded to try and keep those kind of things from happening. And so we reinvigorated some what we call street outreach to try and figure out who's out there camping, who's not in the shelter. And that found about 70 to 100 people who were camping along the rivers, on private property, and other things that weren't either wouldn't come to the shelter, had been removed from the shelter because they couldn't follow the rules. We're a clean shelter. We don't allow alcohol or drug use in the shelter. And so we had a slew of people that were camping. And so we started trying to reach out to figure out who those folks were, how to get them in the door of services. And so that's called our street outreach. When COVID hit, we have had to implement in the shelter some protective measures to keep our staff safe and to keep the other residents safe. And that has limited cut in half about what we can do at the shelter. And it has also cut in half our practices of on really cold nights, or cut out our really cold night practices of letting people just come and sleep in the dining area on cots to prevent people from freezing to death. And then we also have community meals that we have provided in Alamosa forever to anybody who's hungry, and those had to change. We've had to take those off campus. The city of Alamosa has agreed to put in a homeless encampment area on their land, and that has happened. And those folks are starting to be that have been camping on other property and private property being eased to this encampment. So the funding is to help feed those folks, to have more COVID-19 specialists to work in the whole valley, to help folks with COVID-related issues. That's for 6 months of a salaried person. And we have what we call a housing navigation program that's also valley-wide, that is to help get people get into housing, even from the most difficult situations. And so those funds are helping us to gear up those housing efforts. Also, one of the issues we've been concerned about from the beginning with the homeless population is if somebody gets sick, we need to separate them from other folks, but they don't have a house to separate to. And so, and some senior citizens that might not have a way to separate from other places in the communities. So we have some temporary hotel beds set up with a local hotel that can help them to be in isolation if they're not needing a hospital stay. And then some food, just some food items to reach out to folks. So that's what our this COVID proposal is. We have, similar to what Jody was saying, we have lots of housing or lots of funding sources. And this was a COVID source. We're trying to meet the COVID needs and be adaptable to COVID needs as it goes. One of the COVID workers, Christina, like in Center, when they had the the first outbreak in Center, the resources to get food to folks, to kind of meet the needs, to deliver things like that, the right kind, the kinds of foods. Like, I didn't know this until then, but at the migrant housing, they have like dorm rooms. They don't have kitchens. So you can't just give them food for them to cook because they don't have a way of cooking it. You have to give them meals that are prepared to eat. And our thrift store, which is run by 2 volunteers in Center, took on those chores, but they're wearing out. And so we actually, Christina's, one of her duties would be to go up and help support those efforts to feed people in Center, and to provide some COVID relief, make sure that our services, our eviction prevention, our rehousing efforts are being available for folks who are limited in where they can go.
Go ahead, Suzanne, you have a question.
There's a document in our packet that I'm guessing you want us to sign. It says that we approve the following emergency shelter activities proposed by you that will be located in a blank jurisdiction. None of this is filled out, and so I'm not sure exactly what it is that you're proposing that we approve.
We're proposing that you approve our request to give, and I can email this to Judy, personal protective equipment to unsheltered and sheltered populations as needed, some incentive gifts to help clean up encampment areas and relocation areas for the folks who are living on the streets, helping the most vulnerable, and this would be across the valley, with stocking up on provisions for cold weather, the temporary hotel beds, meal distribution, and housing navigation, and that extra human being to do COVID-related emergency services for the whole valley, but also specifically helping the Center folks.
Yeah, Amanda, I personally, and I've heard others on the commissioners here, and I'm talking around the valley, have had concerns about La Puente's impact. You're talking about people camping on private property and all. I know that the railroad had to remove their passenger cars to a location away from Alamosa because people were using that over the winter to winter there, and when the people go in the next spring to clean it up, it's full of needles and feces and what have you. And so we have not had the opportunity to address that with you or with Lance, but it is something we're hearing from our constituents. And also, this particular request came to us without a lot of explanation with a very short deadline, and it makes it hard for us to make coherent decisions on these things without really knowing. And thirdly, what I'm hearing is duplication of effort. And I don't know how many groups out there are providing food and services like this across the valley, but there are several, including stuff that's happened here in the county, either through social services or other entities. And so it's a little hard for me personally to get my head around exactly what it is we're trying to do with this money.
Well, I would like to say that was, this is why I would love to have another conversation with you. Those were the same concerns that the city of Alamosa had 2 years ago. The communities, if you go to other places across the state that don't have the services that we have, they're trying to get them. Salida is desperately trying to figure out how to replicate what La Puente is doing. We're not the cause, but because we help some vulnerable and some sometimes really challenging populations, we get people who want to blame us for those challenging populations. We have seen a lot of the fallout of drug and opiate use is that families have torn their hair out trying to help their families, and it hasn't worked, and they finally cut ties. Those are a lot of the folks that we end up trying to figure out how to serve. And so what we would love to have that conversation, what happened with the city of Alamosa, and once we were able to show them the data that we've been collecting, we've been in the last 2 years really collecting robust data. We know who we're duplicating. We know what efforts that we have. We can help other folks who are making the same efforts to make sure that we're not duplicating efforts. We have that ability, but we are, but the city started looking at it on their own and realized that we can't do it. There's so much need that we can't do it by ourselves. It is the communities that we need to have in partnership with this. And so the city, in a year-long process, we went through and we let them do their own investigation. We let them call other communities. We let them really see what we do, because we do such a vast amount of efforts in the community across the valley that after a year, they helped us set up the homelessness coalition and have 17 to 20 other shareholders that care about this issue. We've had them come on board. So what I'm saying is I think the lack of communication with us and you is one of the challenges of being in the San Luis Valley. You already do a lot of work with the SLB commissioners, but sometimes that's hard, a lot of effort work, and that's the same for us. We would love to talk to you. We would love to build these relationships, but we would also love to have the financial ability from ESG to deliver needs this winter. This is a COVID-related grant, and let us build our relationship for the next future of the people in the valley, so that you can build trust with us. You can answer your constituents about that these are our people. They are helping, and it's easy to throw rocks at the people who are helping the toughest population, but they're not us. We're not bringing them in, and we have been taking data to show that we haven't bringing them in, and we haven't told you our story of really how impactful we are and what we're doing clear across the valley, because it's pretty darn amazing. I started with La Puente about 3.5 years ago, and I had always, given my money, gone and cooked with church at the shelter, and done those kind of things. What this organization is doing in our valley is actually pretty hidden, and would love to come and share that with you and talk with you so that you can answer your constituents on their concerns.
Amanda, if I could jump in for a second as well. It sounds like some of the concerns you're having, or some of the sort of the reputation that La Puente has around the negative aspects of our homeless community. And what I've found, I've only been here for about 3 months or so, but what I've found is La Puente often gets tied up in everything that happens with the homeless community, because we are the main organization here that helps those folks. And so when people see the homeless community and they have these negative thoughts, they automatically associate La Puente with that. But the thing that I've been really impressed with La Puente is that not only do they provide the needs that the homeless community needs, tents, sleeping bags, cots, etc., food, etc., but they really work to get these people out of homelessness. Again, like Amanda was saying, we have a homeless shelter that's a 30-day stay, and when you're at the shelter, it's required that you do work to get out of the shelter and get into housing. So it's impressive to see not only the immediate care we provide, but then also the care down the line in terms of getting out of homelessness, out of the shelter, and into stable living.
I don't want to be contentious on this, but the stories I've heard, or anecdotal stories, are consistent with my direct personal experience with La Puente and some of its residents, including convicted or people with felony warrants out for them that were being sheltered, things of that nature. It's directly affected many people. And what I'm a little bit concerned about is we hear from you whenever you need something like this, and we get your flyers and your publications, which all sound good, but I get the feeling that you're not hearing from us, that we don't have that dialogue. And our concerns are kind of swept under or lost in the dust cloud of all the good things that happen. And you can cite the stories and individual cases where somebody has benefited directly from La Puente's efforts. But what we're dealing with out here, or whenever I deal directly with La Puente's residents, is I don't see those people. What I see are the ones sleeping in their cars around La Puente, the ones that are out selling drugs, doing drugs around there. And I know that you don't allow that on your premises, but basically what we've done is we've set up a drug zone around La Puente and a homeless zone. And I don't know, we haven't had a chance to have the conversation about how to address that. But I've heard complaints from other officials. I've heard complaints from residents across the board. And I would welcome an opportunity to have a conversation. And I'm not comfortable kind of being pushed into a corner of a deadline that is not of our making. Those are just my personal.
Thank you, and I agree. I think the communication is something that we should work harder at and be in a bigger relationship with in all of our counties, and we welcome that opportunity because, like I said, we can't do it alone. I would ask you to be careful about too long of a memory because the issues with La Puente, some of them have happened that we've been trying to address. Like we put up video cameras. I was part of calling the police on somebody we felt was doing drugs. I will say that I have a long memory of Alamosa as well, since I have been in the area since 1980. And where my office is right now was a drug den, pad apartments called Scotty's Apartments. I think that there is some issues in our community that are around that area, not all having to do with the shelter, and we call the police. And when we find out about things, we try to let the police know. We have a really good relationship and rapport with the Alamosa police, and I would ask you to have that conversation on this with us in the future. This is a COVID grant. It came up fast. It's complicated. We had to do a letter of intent, I think by the 9th of October. This deadline was due on this date. And I can't tell you the amount of, I would imagine with your folks, the type of extra work that has been on your staff to try and meet the COVID related issues has been intense. And I will say that we are not spared from that at La Puente either. And we apologize for this shortness of time. This is something that we do on an annual basis usually, and we've never had the commissioners ask us to come in person and talk about it before. And so we were on a short notice as well because of the COVID related issues. We're trying to stay on top of funding so that we have the money to meet the needs in this winter, because we are pretty worried about this winter.
And in terms of the community concerns, we just hosted a shelter virtual open house, which was a direct response to some of the community concerns around La Puente and specifically the homeless shelter. And that open house included a video, day in the life of the shelter, followed by a Q&A where members of the community could ask questions to one of our directors, and then they could respond directly to those questions. So we are aware of the fact that we're a part of this community. We're kind of right in the heart of Alamosa, and we definitely want to be aware of the concerns of the community because we know that we are a major part of Alamosa and of the San Luis Valley.
And Teddy, could you put that link in their chat so if they wanted to watch it, they could, so they can see what.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say that we're perfect, and I'm not going to say that there aren't some rough sides of what happens. I'm going to say we're trying to be responsive and we're trying to be a better community member with communications, and I'm glad to have that opportunity, and I know the rest of us are as well.
Thank you. Well, we'd like to have an opportunity to have this conversation with you. Obviously, we haven't had a chance to discuss this particular request with the SLV-BOCC at a formal meeting. To speak to one of the things you said, Amanda, about the history and the changes, I can tell you that the references I made about my experience are within the last 6 months.
Okay.
So I've got a long history there also, but I do have the concerns. And when I started hearing from constituents and neighbors and other officials, while we're busy with other things, it became apparent to me that we need to have a conversation, not just having information pushed out to us, but having our questions answered.
And we're glad to do that and bring the data along with us that we've been collecting for the last couple of years.
So we appreciate the information. We're gonna take action on this one way or the other. How do you want to do that?
I really feel like we don't have enough information. Even that one form doesn't even have specifics about what it is that you're asking. And you just gave us a description, but we don't have anything in writing that says that this is what you intend to do with it.
Do you want my summary or do you want the application? I have a summary that the grant writers gave to me for this morning, or I can actually forward the application to Judy's email.
Just a second, Judy, Edward, you have a question?
That answered the question. I was going to suggest that, am I correct in understanding that this particular form is part of a routine action that you do on a regular basis with the San Luis Valley commissioners? Is that right?
That's correct. It's something we've had to do fairly regularly.
So what you're seeing is typically a routine action that doesn't require a lot of conversation, and that's why it came to you in a routine way. What I'm hearing from you is that you would like more conversation, so I'm happy to set that work session at whatever point in time works for everybody, and we can do that. But from what I understand, they do need action soon in order to get this to the commissioners. And correct me if I'm wrong there, Amanda.
Yes, this is something that we need to be able to get this funding for the most vulnerable people in our community.
Well, and
I'll forward it to you.
I will again reiterate that one form doesn't even have any of the blanks filled in, that we're just expected to sign a blank form, and I'm not comfortable doing that. And we haven't gotten that the documentation that came with it was non-existent. And even if we get that documentation today, I don't know that we have time to read it.
Commissioner Glover, do you have thoughts on this?
My biggest concern is there's absolutely zero communication with La Puente to us as far as what La Puente actually does to Rio Grande County or help Rio Grande County. And I think we've asked for that several times over the last few years at different points. We keep having the same word pop up. Everybody wants to yell transparency about everything, but when it comes down to most of these meetings, it comes down to lack of communication being the key word. And it seems like we're running up against that more and more every day. So without the information, I don't know how we could fill that form out ourselves and feel comfortable about doing that. I mean, I want to help everybody as much as I can, but I don't want to do something that's not going to be prudent. So.
I did make some notes on her presentation on what the form was to contain. If you'd like me to recapture that for you, and then we can make that as part of your record for your consideration.
That'd be a good idea.
To cover PPE for a broad group of people, both sheltered and unsheltered persons in need of those services. To, reading my own handwriting here, to clean up some of the encampment areas that are across the valley, to provide provisions for those people who need provisions, emergency hotel rooms for COVID-related issues, meals, and general housing navigation for their persons in need. Did I miss anything?
Yeah, I think you missed the staff member who's going to help 6-month temporary staff member to help meet COVID needs specifically right now because it's a challenging area center. That gives us adaptability to send them.
So that would be the content to be filled in the form should you choose to act on it.
Right. I forwarded you the email that my grant writer sent to me on this. She got stuck in Denver and just got back late last night. And so she's asked me to do this particular grant. I'm glad, honestly, to set up a meeting where we can tell you how many people we serve. I can email that, but since I just got put on this last night, I didn't have the chance to get anybody to get data together for me today. But we serve Rio Grande County. And my concern is that this will not necessarily keep us from getting funding, but it may keep us from getting funding for Rio Grande County, because we have other counties who are supporting us. So I don't know how it works. But I don't know what the results of that are.
This form appears to be just a DOLA standard form.
Yes.
Like I said,
Like
it's not
clear
filled
support.
out. And it says the following emergency shelter activities proposed by, as I see it, that information was not included in this form. Is that
No,
correct?
and that's what I just recapped for you verbally here. And
Right.
that's what I would put in that form, should you choose to sign it.
Okay, so we have to fill that part out.
I will do that. I have the information for that.
Okay. I don't want to be obstructionist. On the other hand, I think if we had a more frequent dialogue with La Puente, we'd be more comfortable on these requests. And I would like some sort of commitment from La Puente. I realize Lance isn't on, that says that they will have that dialogue with us going forward.
I have the authority to commit to that, and will, if you want to give me, I know it sounds like your timeframes are pretty tight as well, and that your meetings are pretty full right now. So after hearing the housing folks having a bit of challenge getting on, when would you? I'll put it on our calendar. When would you like us to be working to schedule a more meaningful dialogue? And we'll do it. I agree.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. In light of, I am about to ask you for a series of special meetings regarding your budget process, which is pretty time critical. I would suggest something shortly after the first of the year.
Does that sound reasonable?
Works for me.
Do you want to pick a date? Do you want to leave that to me to work that out with La Puente?
If it's okay with you all, I would suggest that we do that,
Okay.
follow your suggestion on that. Then the
That would
question,
give me
right,
a chance to get Lance's schedule as well, because I know he'll want to be a part of it.
We'll follow up on that.
So the question before us right now is, are we going to sign this form and lend our support to this particular grant request of or it sounds like potentially more than one. There's state subrecipients, plural, on this. And so I'm assuming that you're looking, who knows where the funding sources may come from through DOLA. Is that right?
That's correct. You know, I'm going to say that the state of Colorado and DOLA has done a pretty amazing job. We've started an eviction prevention effort with the courts, with La Puente, and one of the things that are keeping people in their houses, a governor's moratorium really impacts landlords, and we didn't think that was fair. And so we've got mediation, and we've got DOLA has given us money to help pay landlords rent so that people can stay in their houses. They have to go through a screening process to make sure it's COVID related, and they've given us enough money to keep we're up over last year at the same time, we're up 80 families. And so the DOLA's been doing a great job and moving fast, but then we have to move fast as well, which is tough for us, especially when we're all pretty overwhelmed.
Okay. Any other comments or questions on this at this point?
Teddy, can I ask your last name again so I can get this to our minute taker?
Yeah, my last name's Lineback. That's Leinbach.
Thank you.
Okay, well, it's before us. With the commissioners to.
I personally am not comfortable signing it because of the lack of information that comes behind it. We have no documentation, and I have a concern that it may turn into a much bigger animal than what we've been led to believe.
Well, I think with all that said, with COVID being what it is, And the valley being such a small area, I'm not opposed to signing it, even though we have to fill in the blanks ourselves. That's not as big a deal to me, but the big deal is if we have a meeting set up for right after the first year, I want to make sure that meeting's set up, and I want to make sure it includes the people that can make decisions, makes a number of calls, and there's some body to it, not just chatter.
I can guarantee you that. I have been given a lot of responsibility at La Puente since I started and have the ability to make that happen.
Then I would entertain a motion to either approve or disapprove.
That's my motion to approve on them basis.
We have a motion. Do we have a second there? Okay. I will second the motion. Is there any other discussion before we go forward? Clearly, we have some expectations of La Puente going forward. We understand the timing of this, and we also understand how some of this COVID money came down with very short notice and short deadlines. We're facing the same thing with certain funding sources that we have. So I will second that motion, as I said, and call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No.
All opposed? No. Okay, the motion carries.
See you in January.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you very much. Goodbye.
Thank you.
I'm going to sign. Thank you. I'll sign this if you'll fill in the blanks.
I will do that.
Okay. Okay. Next, I think that was
Top
it.
sheet.
No, that was okay. La Puente's request. Forrest Newberg, are you on?
Yes.
Yes, good morning, commissioners.
Good morning. You trying to squeeze more money out of us?
Well, the Friends of Sky High are, sir.
Are you a friend of Sky High?
Well, I'm the city's project manager. I'm sure I am actually an actual friend of Sky High, yes.
Okay. And Judy, do we have their written request?
You know, that came in after your packet was prepared, and I sent that to you in a separate email.
Right, okay. And so,
I'm looking for it here now also.
so the request is for the waiver of all of the revised building permit fees. Is that what I'm reading correctly here, Forrest?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
Okay. Discussion.
When we talked the last time, we talked about maybe doing, if we couldn't do the whole thing, maybe doing a portion of that. Did you come up with a solid number on your end you thought would be a portion to ask for?
Well, I'm trying to decide which,
It can't be 100%.
right, I'm trying to decide which part I'm an advocate, but let's just say 50%. Which would be 13,838.33.
Cutting it in half is what it was?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So for the record, for those of you on Zoom that cannot read this or see it, the original building permit fee for the Sky High project, which as I understand is an $8 million project for the convention center, for $28,495.50. They redone the plans and took some elements of the project out. So now they're asking, the building permit fee is $27,676.65. And they're asking for, in their initial ask, that we basically forgive the entire building permit fee, but they're coming back with a proposal of 50%, which is $13,838 and change. A recommendation from our building department was concern about setting precedents on these large projects. This is about 50% of our annual building permit fee revenue, typical annual building fee revenue. And our building department estimates that they're going to spend at least 100 hours on this project with inspections and plan review and what have you. And so that's the input we've gotten from the folks around here. You have a thought, Commissioner? What? Bothell.
And I recognize, it's a worthy project, but we also have to make our budget work. And we can't have a single department end up over budget on their expenses as far as to run the department without the revenue. So that's my concern.
If I could add something, Commissioner?
Yes.
If it's based on 100 hours, that's $276.77 an hour.
So thrown out their estimate in the hallway, it's probably more than that. And actually, I threw that number out. I asked him if it was going to take him at least 100 hours. And he said he's confident it would, but he didn't sit down and give me a hard estimate.
Right. Well, even if it was 200 hours, that's $138 an hour, which, since I'm supposed to be advocating for this, I'll say $138 an hour, even if it was 200 hours, is a pretty rich price.
Well, on an $8 million project of something of this magnitude, the $27,000 is almost doesn't move the needle.
I would agree with that as well. So it's kind of an interesting thing, because as a percentage of project cost, yeah, it's not huge. On a cost per hour basis, it's pretty healthy. So,
Jim?
Forrest, at our last meeting, when we talked a little bit, we had talked about trying to maybe do something without setting any terms or anything, but something closer to like 25%. If you do the math on 25%, that's about $6,920 that would be off of there. That's not near what you're asking for, but I mean, that's the number we're thinking about. That's the number I kind of had in my mind coming in this morning to talk about. So I don't know what the other commissioners think about that, but I agree we can't cut our building department down on their building fees completely in half, regardless how the math looks on paper. I mean, I don't know how much time Randy's going to actually have between trips and paperwork and everything else, but I mean, we could look at another number maybe.
I'm okay with the number you just suggested, Commissioner. I think that's reasonable as well.
It's up to the commissioners here. My concern, Forrest, is the above and beyond the revenue side of it for the county. We've already contributed out of our CTF funds, which are real county dollars,
right?
$150,000 to the project. And so we feel like we've made a significant community contribution there. My other concern is not so much what your ask is, but what the next ask will be from the next government or nonprofit entity trying to get relief on what are, quite frankly, fairly nominal building permit fees.
Right.
And so, I mean, you're in government on your end. And you know what it would be like whenever people come in and ask for relief from your fee structures on any of the things you do.
Right.
So those are just my comments and thoughts. It doesn't really move the conversation forward. So I'm going to leave it to the other commissioners here to make whatever motion they would choose to do.
Well, for sake of time, I'm going to make a motion that we offer to do the 25% at the $6,920. Yeah, that's my motion.
Okay, that we reduce the building permit fee by $6,920 is the motion.
And I guess my concern is, as you express the precedence issue, is that whenever you start doing this, that it turns into a regular occurrence. And so I kind of feel like it would be better to not do that.
So we have a motion. We have yet to have a second on this. Forrest, we're still in discussion. I'm going to give you one more shot to sell this.
Well, that's quite graceful of you, Commissioner. I really, since I represent a local government, I totally respect all the commissioners' comments on this. You know, it's one of those things that would be beneficial to the project, but as you said, you all have also put $150,000 CTF in the project, which we really appreciate that. And, you know, this is really kind of at your discretion, obviously. And, you know, the precedence thing is always an interesting rabbit hole. So I get that.
And I guess I also feel like if we feel like we want to contribute more to the project, that maybe we need to find another avenue, that this is maybe not the best avenue because of the precedents.
Do we have a practical, well, let me ask Forrest this. This is an unfair question, and I could see that up front. Or do you see the Friends of Sky High or the city coming back to the county with additional requests?
Well, I can't really speak for the Friends of Sky High, but I would not think so. And certainly the city is not going to. You know, we're knee deep in this project and we pretty much have it figured out, I think, financially. So yeah, I don't really see us doing that.
Okay. Then in terms of the comments you had about additional participation down the road, do you have any sense of how we would do that?
I don't know. I was just thinking that if we feel like we want to contribute in another amount, that maybe some other method. I don't know. I have no idea.
I don't
I'm just thinking that if you start reducing the charges for fees, and like you were saying, is every nonprofit that comes along is going to want to try to do that. And I think that's a terrible thing
Yeah,
to start.
I'm not arguing with you, but there's a motion on the floor that we haven't done anything with yet, so.
That's where we're in the discussion without a second.
Procedurally, you should second the motion before you have discussion, just as a point of reference.
That's what I
Point of
was.
order, yeah.
Okay, well, I don't want to second it.
And if a
Let
motion-
that be said.
Procedurally, if a motion dies for lack of second, there should be no discussion.
Right. Well, we've already done what we always do, which is talked about it without following the exact Robert's rules. Forrest, I wish we could have had a face-to-face on this. If we do this for you in this negotiation, what will you do for us?
Help you spend your CARES Act funds?
You're such a giver. Such a
What
giver.
do you mean, help us spend? I'll tell you, in the spirit of, or in the sense of community spirit and support, I will second the motion. And so we do have a motion and a second. And is there any other discussion?
I still feel like this is going to put undue burden on one single department.
Okay.
And each department is responsible for their budget. And this removes a large portion of the revenue that would come into that department.
And we want to make sure that that's in the record.
Yes.
Okay. Is there any other comment, discussion at this point? I'll call the question. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, Forrest. Now
Thank
can I have him back?
Appreciate it.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Thanks.
And I'll be calling you to help me get that money out, right?
You know, Judy, I can spend money, trust me.
Thank you.
Somebody else's. Yeah.
Right, exactly.
All right. We're going to move on to the next item on here. Judy, I'll need a little bit of your guidance.
Sure.
Discuss and direct the staff regarding the county attorney position and the recruiting process. Consider appointing an interim county attorney. You want to bring us up to speed?
Yes. So at your last meeting, you have recognized Ryan Dunn's resignation effective the end of this month. and we have not started a process yet to talk about how to replace that position. He, at the last meeting, brought Nancy Lake to your meeting and introduced her. She gave a little overview of her interest in the job and her qualifications. So my recommendation to you today is to consider two things. Do you want to appoint an interim? And if so, is that Nancy Lake or is it somebody else? If you choose to appoint an interim, then I also need direction for the process for filling the position on a regular contract basis. An interim could be for a short period of time. You can define that period of time. So there's two different things to consider there. My most important thing to say to you is I don't think we can be for any length of time without legal counsel. So that's important to me.
So without trying to restate everything you just said, what's before us right now is, do we want to appoint at a minimum an interim with the idea that we'll be after the first of the year, which would have been Ryan's normal contract expiration date, go to a permanent appointment? And do we have a candidate before us, a potential contractor, and it's my understanding that following this process, we do not have to go out with a request for proposals right now to fill that position.
That was your legal advice from Ryan at the last meeting.
Okay.
And I have not seen the existing contract to know when that term expires. There seems to be an understanding that it expires the end of December. So if you were to appoint for that interim to fill until the end of December, depending on your choice of what you wanted to do for long-term, that RFP process should start now, if you're going to do that for a contract beginning in January.
If we need to do an RFP.
If you choose to do that.
Okay. So right now, the question before us is, do we want to appoint an interim attorney? Well, let me back up. As I understand it, there's been correspondence in terms of compensation, things of that nature, hourly rates or whatever.
Yes, and Nancy Lake did say that she was interested. She is clearly interested in the position, interim or long-term, and she was willing to consider a contract at the same rate that we were currently paying
Our attorney. Okay. So we can appoint the interim. Following up with that later is, do we want to do an RFP? But we're working on those policies anyhow, are we not?
We are, and that will be to you hopefully soon.
Okay. So I'm going to offer this. I would entertain a motion that we appoint an interim, that interim be Nancy Lake, to fulfill the unexpired term of our current attorney's contract, and then the next item would be to review our request for proposal process and see if there's a requirement in there that we go to an RFP on this type of a position, a professional service type thing.
Okay. I'm going to say that she has expressed interest. Ryan gave us his opinion that he feels like she's competent and qualified. We do need an attorney soon. And so I would move that we appoint Nancy Lake as our interim attorney to begin immediately, I guess, or would it be the 1st of November, since Ryan is.
That was what she expressed at the last meeting. Okay. She did note that she had some date conflicts in November, and I don't know exactly what those dates were, but we'll work that out.
Yeah.
But she had one that she wasn't even sure how it was set yet when she talked to us. So.
Right. And so I guess that's your
motion. Okay, I have a motion and a second to appoint an interim county attorney, that person being Nancy Lake, at our current contract rates. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay, the next item, discuss and direct staff regarding.
Okay. On that also is, I really feel like it would be a good idea to wait to do an RFP.
Let me suggest this. Your current purchasing policy is silent on that particular matter. The one that has been drafted, I don't know its origin or who drafted it, but it looks pretty complete, like I should be able to get it to you fairly soon for approval. It does not treat professional services differently than goods. And that's cumbersome for a lot of reasons, partly because it's hard to put a dollar value on if you're paying an attorney hourly, what is that dollar value? Because you might use them a lot or a little. So most purchasing policies have an exemption for professional services for that reason. And that would be what I would recommend to you with a new purchasing policy, that it be exempt from that. Because you don't have a policy right now, I think you can direct your action in whatever way you choose. But if you give me time to get that policy to you, then you would have a firm policy to direct your actions.
I guess where I was going is that if we have someone coming in as an interim and she would be interested in being a long-term attorney for the county, if we have a little time to work with her, we can see if we want to put out an RFP, or because from my understanding from Ryan's advice that we don't have to put out an RFP, that we can just choose to hire her as the permanent attorney, if that would be our choice. My thought is if we wait a while and see how she's working out before we choose to move with the RFP.
So with that in mind, you may want to make her interim time period longer than the end of the year.
Or make her interim time period maybe non-specific.
And I think
Or
all
do you have
of
to-
those are negotiable items that you can follow up with her in determining a contract. You would need a contract for an interim. And I think all those are negotiating points that you could work with.
And I really believe that Ryan, we actually hired later on in the year, but that his term ended, or that the contract ended December 31st. And so this could go on until whatever point, and then set the contract for a beginning date of whatever.
Do we have a motion on this?
You actually took a vote on that. To
We've already done it.
appoint Nancy
I was gonna
Lake
say, I
as
got lost in
interim
discussion.
through the remainder of the unexpired contract for the same terms of compensation.
And what I'm wondering is, do we need to have another motion that says that we choose to not, I don't think so, to not put out an RFP at this time? I think
As a discussion.
We're gonna wait for our.
Let's look at that
administrative
in the context of the policies that I'll try to get to you sooner rather than later.
Okay.
advice. Okay, good enough.
Not today,
All right,
not this week.
all right. Discuss and direct staff regarding next steps in the budget process.
All right.
This is yours, isn't it?
It's mine. Well, I'm gonna bring Debbie in just for scheduling conversation, because I'm asking you to set some special meetings here.
We approved all of these. I didn't go into any detail on them. But we have on the payroll check register, which was in the consent agenda,
Mhm.
we actually had to cut a paper check, so we had to go and revise things, so somebody's account got hacked.
Okay.
Okay, and that's what this is. You have to sign wherever they're supposed to be. Debbie, our accountant is here.
So at your last meeting, you got your draft of the very draft budget. And the next steps are at your discretion. Our priority that we need answers on quickly is regarding the employee health insurance shared costs, and also any compensation changes that you might want to consider. We're in the midst of open enrollment right now and the window, and we need to get that information to employees in terms of what their health insurance costs will be. So that's a very time critical conversation that we need to schedule probably a work session on fairly soon, or a special meeting if you're going to direct
make a
action.
decision.
On how
And
you
you
want me
need
to
a
move
decision on
forward,
it.
if you're gonna increase any COLA,
Mhm.
merit raises, or what percentage of the health increase premium that you're going to, either
How
you're
much we're
gonna
gonna
share it with the
absorb or share.
employee, or you're gonna absorb it all.
Do we have any tentative numbers on that?
I thought Suzanne Bannon said it was like a 3% increase
For,
for.
that's exactly
On
what
the,
it was.
on the
wasn't it?
On the
healthcare
health.
premiums? And, well, it's one of those chicken and egg things. Having an idea of what our revenue picture looks like and start working on the expense side of it.
So that's really your first deep dig into your budget
Mhm.
process, is that piece. Separate from that, each department head potentially that you want to meet with, at your discretion, whatever you feel like you need more conversation at the department level for the budgets. I don't know what you typically do with that. If you sit down with every department to sort through, if you rely on what's been provided to you in writing. I do know that there are some gaps that department heads have not filled in terms of compensation, that they wanted to make a plea for a change of compensation. So that's your second in priority as far as timing. And then you have a list on my memo of all the outside agencies that have requested funding. I don't know if all of these have come through you directly to your budget, or if they're part of the SLB commissioners budgeting process.
A lot of that's SLE.
So some of these, it may not be as bad as it looks, because some of these may have already been dealt with through the regional process. But I know some that have come up just at the last meeting, the Conservation Youth Corps and the Adams State Cozy. I don't think that's been addressed anywhere else. So that's a big piece. Beyond those pieces, you may want time to just sort out the budget on the whole, to look through how do you balance that, because it does need to be balanced and it's not right now. So I recommend some sort of meeting at which you can give direction to staff. Let me back up to your question about the decision. If you have a work session and you come to a consensus to plug into that draft budget X percent of cost of living increase and X percent contribution toward healthcare, that's not a decision until that budget's adopted. So that can still be handled at a work session in terms of formulating that draft budget. And then at the time you adopt the budget, that's your action. And that.
Right, so we can have this, so we can play a little what if
Right.
Mhm.
on that.
And it also gives you a chance to look at the totality of the budget, because that's only one piece of it. So it lets you get through your whole budget process. The critical date on the tail end of this is it's got to be filed with DOLA by December 15th. And because of the way your meetings fall, it looks like the easiest thing to do would be have a special meeting on December, I think it was 9th.
That's a Monday,
Wednesday.
December 9th, I'm thinking
December
November.
9th. And that way it's wrapped up on December 9th. That would be the date. I need to put out a budget notice, a legal notice that has that date, because it carries a requirement for a public hearing as well. So you would have your final budget in what you believe to be final form, bring it to the public for a hearing on December 9th. You'd have time then to take any changes that you needed to before having that.
Okay, so
December 15th.
December 9th, which is not a regular. this
It's
would be
not a
special
regular meeting because of the way the dates fall in December. You would be on the 16th for your regular meeting and miss that deadline. So, and then in November, your dates are a little odd with the holidays too. So you're on the 12th and the 24th. Unless you think you can have a budget in final form by November 24th, then you wouldn't need that special meeting on December 9th.
I would suggest that, let me get back to the right month here, that we have a work session this coming Monday, the 2nd.
I won't be here.
Okay.
Is that
How about
U-turn?
Tuesday?
That U-turn she just made right there.
Mhm.
Okay, well,
Because you were talking about what What day? for
Well,
workshop?
we had talked about the 4th because at that point you had you had a work session scheduled that morning, which I have now asked to be vacated.
The GoCo. Travel.
Yes. So you're free any day next week that you're in town.
I'm wondering if maybe it would be better to do it earlier rather than later, possibly
It
do
is.
one on Tuesday. What day are you going to be back?
Well, I'm driving back from Phoenix. I'm driving back on Monday. So unless,
You may or may not make it by Tuesday.
well, I may or may not make it by Tuesday morning, if you had another meeting, just depending on what I run into.
Tuesday afternoon or Wednesday morning?
My preference would be Wednesday morning because I'm pretty confident I'll be back by then. And also on Tuesday, this could be it shouldn't be too lengthy, should it? This conversation will be.
Just need direction on how to move forward.
I guess maybe what I'm visualizing is on Tuesday, do the what ifs and say, okay, maybe if we did this and move it around and then possibly even meet again on Wednesday and then, for whatever direction we gave, it may take a little while to get those numbers in. Would that?
I don't know, Wednesday might be too soon after Tuesday
Too
to
soon.
get the numbers in, because I'm gonna have to
When is the
do it by
deadline
employee.
for open enrollment? When do we have to have that completed?
I thought
It's-
that we have to have it by the end of November, but we have to
Yeah.
have everything in our hands. So they were looking at, I think HR was looking like the middle of November.
You can't even push it out to employees until you have these answers.
Mhm.
Here's my situation. I've got to meet with Dr. Van Koo on the third, Tuesday the 3rd that afternoon,
Okay.
because we're going to be doing that public health transition. And so,
On the 3rd? Is that what you said?
yeah, Tuesday. Because I didn't schedule anything for Monday because I was going to be traveling.
So if you did something Wednesday for your first look and directed some concepts, then would like Thursday or Friday be reasonable to turn that
Probably
around?
Friday.
Friday the 7th?
That would be the,
That
That's
would
the
be the
6th.
6th.
I'm sorry, the 6th.
9 o'clock,
no, I hate
8
that.
o'clock,
I hate it.
7:30.
You're getting worse.
I'm going in the wrong direction.
I know, it's.
But see, well, we're going to have, it's going to be lighter in the morning by that point, though, right? The
Yeah.
sun will have. So what are we going to do on Wednesday?
Wednesday, whatever, you have not told me a time yet.
But we are going to meet on Wednesday.
that-
To
that
give,
sounds
to
like
give
the
me direction
consensus.
how to
Okay,
move
budget
forward.
meeting.
At 9 or what? Is that what?
You tell me.
9's good for me.
I can be here about 4:30, so it's whatever time you guys want to come in.
Well, let's do it at 4:30. That would be a new
be
Afternoon, in
change.
the afternoon, 16:30.
So 9 o'clock.
9 a.m. on Wednesday, November 4th, and Friday, November 6th, also at 9.
And this is going to be a special, that will be a
It'll
special
be,
meeting. right?
I'm thinking these are work sessions, so they're not
Both of
formal
them.
meetings.
Both
Yes.
work session.
Because really your formal action on the budget doesn't happen until you adopt it. And beyond that, I would like you to direct me on what you would like from department heads.
You've had discussions about, have you had discussions with department heads about their salary desires?
Very, very minimally, because most of those concepts were developed before I stepped in, so I know they exist, and that's about all I
Oh,
know
yeah.
right now.
Your suggestion, do you need to have that conversation with them?
I wish we could take a big step back in time, because I wish you weren't in the position of looking at individual persons' salaries. I think that's something that HR needs to address on the whole. We've got a compensation structure with step plans, but those positions that you have historically interacted with at an individual level still have that expectation.
So you've told us the problem, what's the solution?
Because of our quick timing right now, I would say let's move forward with as you have historically done it, and we'll get a better structure in place for next time. That
Okay.
sounds like what you would expect, Debbie.
Yeah, you probably want, overall, I think the cost of living, if you're going to give one, that'd be probably their decision. But on one, I don't know, I guess
That
depends
should
on
stay at
performance.
the
That should be part of their merit,
supervisor and
their merit
teacher.
raises, I think, and that maybe.
So what I see as a gap in that is that some departments are using our compensation structure effectively, and some have really not implemented that. That's a longer term process to get that implemented if they're not using it. And some of those financial decisions might, well, they definitely will affect budget, but they might be something you want to weigh in on. Or
So
not.
that structure's for the merit part of the
For-
raises, not the
well,
COLA.
Right,
Mhm.
right. And the COLA, you're exactly right. If they say everybody in the county gets X% for COLA, that's easy and it's easy to budget for. The other piece of, as an employee's been here this long, this is their job, here's the market value of that job, and what steps have they increased for that. That's not something I can solve in the next few weeks.
If we look at the benefits package, specifically the healthcare, and we're talking a 4% increase, it'd be fairly easy to come up with a chart that shows us this is what it's going to cost regardless, as we stand right now. And then ratio it down if we split the cost with the employee or not. And then we would have at least a graph.
And I think HR probably has that data to work.
I think she could
from.
probably
need
even
to,
download it
yeah.
from our new system, and then she could plug in
So
the
we can say,
scenarios.
okay, this is the number, and then
Because dollars matter too. And you know, if you say the health insurance is going up 4%, what does that mean to any given employee?
Right.
And if you're saying a cost of living of, I'm just throwing numbers out here, 2%, there's common misunderstandings, not that I've seen here, but in other places, that my costs are going up 4% and I'm only getting 2%. Well, that's not the reality of the numbers. You know, it's 4% of a much smaller number. So I think it's going to help employees to see it in dollars, and certainly help your budget process for you to see it in dollars.
But then we're gonna have to be able to lay alongside of that the COLA or anything else that
Yes.
you might be considering, merit increases, what have you, so we can come up with a final. I hate the term impact, but we need to
Sure.
see what the impact is on the budget,
Sure.
on our expense side.
I think we either have or can get the data around the health insurance and enough scenario to run some COLA scenarios. Is that a fair statement?
By the
By the 4th, Wednesday.
yeah, probably, but what kind of scenarios do you want to plug in?
1, 2, 3, 4.
I would do that, you know,
Seriously.
And
because-
I
so we
think
can visualize it.
historically, what kind of scenarios we've done is, does the county cover all of the insurance? Does the county cover part of the insurance? That kind of a thing.
What'd you do last year? Do you remember?
The county covered all of the
No,
insurance
that-
increase.
But it came at the expense of the raises.
No, we had a 50-cent per hour raise,
Okay, but no merit increases? Was that
no
the-
merit increases.
And
So we
But
need,
that wasn't that was consistently done, was it?
it was somewhat inconsistently applied.
Mhm.
And so
I thought it was applied across the board.
we applied it across the board, but in actuality, we started getting these requests and people started moving things around.
Okay.
Um,
And
If we
that-
have,
and-
if we have some numbers to look at, again, we'll just, okay, so it gives us a range, $1 million or $10, whatever, we're sitting here looking at it. It gives us, that's a foundational thing for us to start to build on. And then if we have the capacity, this is where I wish we had a TV screen and a computer where you could plug in and say, what if we did a 50-cent an hour raise, what does it do to us?
Well, I keep saying I'm going to work on that, and I haven't yet.
You know, I know you're just, I catch you in there sleeping
I
at the
know.
desk, yeah.
I know.
so on your end, if you can do kind of a mock-up, 1, 2, 3, 4 type thing.
Kind of
And then
like
I'll
having the county pay for it all and then split it 50-50 between the employee, or having the employee absorb it all, maybe that.
Yeah, a range
kind
like
of a-
that, and
And,
you know,
and
we
then
could straight
for
line that.
COLAs, you know, what does a 1%, 2%? You know, I don't know how generous you have been in the past, but most governments, I don't see much more than 3% ever for a COLA.
because I know I included in your budget that's like I think there were certain departments that were asking for a little bit more than, like there was some of them asking for $2 per hour increase. Are those the ones that they would have to deal with on a one-on-one?
So that's what I think at this point. That I wish I had been able to start this 2 months ago, so I could have ironed some of that out. But I think where we are right now, we just need to deal with it. And those type of increases, without having looked at them individually, my guess is that the person making the request is believing the position is marketable at a higher rate. And that is worth looking at. It's something we should be doing on a regular basis, and I don't think we have.
Well, I think in the past, we've kind of coasted along like we weren't really having to compete that hard, except in specific departments or specific skill sets.
Jobs, right.
Bottom line now is we're competing across the board.
Exactly.
And we have to factor that in, market rate thing that you're talking about. And either a combination of benefits, days off, vacations, all of that, and the actual cash. And there's a psychology there. It's what you were kind of referring to a moment ago.
And I, if we had more time, I would build more of those big picture things into the process. But because of our timelines with the budget, we really just need to get it done.
Okay, so we're going to do this on Wednesday. Debbie, you'll be able to have those numbers working with, I guess you're going to be working with Judy on that too, right? And HR to get us kind of a starting point model.
I want to come, when you get ready to do that, I want to come in too, because I want to see that as the process is going through there if we could.
On how we all download everything and,
But I don't care about that, but I want to see them on paper. So
oh, okay.
beforehand, because
No, you're the conversation. Yeah.
I've been trying to get that, and with everything changing around, I wasn't going to ask you. So
But they would have shot you.
yeah.
Okay.
So we've got two special work sessions, Wednesday, the 4th at 9, Friday, the 6th at 9. I'm telling you, you need a special meeting December 9th. I hope you're going to be agreeable to that one as well.
Well, I think and actually it was already on my calendar.
I put it in there as a placeholder.
Okay, I think especially if we kind of commit to that,
I
then
think
work
we
toward
need
that.
to
Because she has
commit
to
that.
send out the notice of budget.
And I have to do it now.
And it has to be a publication in the newspaper. She has to put that date in the notice of budget. So it has to be pretty much set in
So if
stone.
it's not that date, I need you to tell me what date it is.
It's December 9th.
Yep.
Okay,
How's that?
9 o'clock.
that works.
10?
9. And
Here we go.
in addition to that, you can be flexible. Once you get through your first 2 work sessions, you can be flexible in determining what other work sessions you need, or would you like to set some of those out right now?
I think let's get through the next
The
first two work sessions, and then we'll see where we're at, what we need. We may be in a really good position where we don't need any more, or we may need to have one every day for a week. I don't know.
A chance to sort through. I don't know how much time you have individually spent in reading what was given to you at the last meeting. And you might want collective time together to wade through those details together that Debbie can help you talk through. So that can happen at either of these sessions or
So
in addition.
my question a while ago was, are you going to be, you're going to get all this stuff done for us, but are you going to be able to break away from the stuff you've been doing on the computer
I've
long
been-
enough to come in? And,
Yeah, well, I've been very busy, as you know.
That's why she's in here.
So that's
to
why
confirm
we
that
have
she will.
a budget officer, so we both, I'm hoping we both work on it together and along with the HR, because it might be, between everything else that I gotta
with
do.
everything going on. So, okay, all right, that's fine.
So we have a regular commissioners meeting scheduled for November 12th.
Yes.
No, it's a special meeting.
No, it's your regular meeting. You moved the day because you typically.
Oh,
would have met
I'm sorry.
on,
I was still thinking about the December 9th. I'm sorry. Yes,
typically
November
would be
12th.
on Veterans Day, so you moved that by resolution earlier in the year.
Do we have an SLV BOCC schedule that day?
I have not seen any schedule for that.
The reason I asked that is I've got
No.
red and green in my.
No. They just wanted an answer. It wasn't a meeting. It was that they
Oh,
wanted
that's
an
the,
answer.
that's your
Yes.
date on the answer. Okay.
And we do have a commissioners meeting on the 24th of November, which would be on a Tuesday,
Mhm.
because that's Thanksgiving week.
Why do we have, why does I had that wrote down as 8:30 on the 24th.
Take that off.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I got cows to
I
take.
thought John asked for 8:30 that morning.
I don't know
Yeah.
why we would do that on
Who
one
knows?
meeting and not the others.
I don't know, but eventually my
Pinocchio
meetings just
commercial.
disappeared off my calendar. I'll work on the calendar for you.
So will then you have department head meetings then to tell them what they're going to get and not get based on the requests?
When does that conversation happen?
Yeah, because I think they need to know whether what they're requesting, if they're going to get granted or denied, they probably need to know.
Which one's that?
All the department heads that are asking for extra stuff, like new cars and stuff like that.
I still think what we need to do is do the first meeting, the first work session.
But you are planning on having
That
meetings
we're-
with departments.
Oh, yeah. But I think do the first 2 work sessions that we've already got scheduled and then see where we're at. And then I think then that would be the next step in my mind.
My question, how much does the administrator do on that in terms of meeting with department heads and getting all that stuff together, boys?
I think once you have an administrator who's here during all these preliminary sessions, it will be a lot.
Well, you're here.
But you're already past that window of time.
Because what's historically happens, or been my observation, when we start doing the direct negotiation with the different department heads, it turns into these protracted conversations. You got 3 people on this side talking and
that's why I
throwing
don't
different
like that.
ideas out.
And I think what you're saying is have them meet with the administrator and determine what they're going to get and not get. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
Based
I don't know
on
if they
based on our
determine-
numbers that we're going to come up with after these meetings.
I mean, this is like a sculpture where we're chipping away parts, and the more shape this has to it before it gets to us, the more efficient the process is.
In a perfect world for next time around, when you have a long-term administrator in here, what I would expect to see is that budget that comes to you for the first view as a draft be a balanced budget.
That's what I'm used to.
And that did not happen because we didn't have the capacity to do it. So, it put a lot of the work back on you guys to do that chipping, but the administrator and finance should be chipping before it gets to you. But we're just beyond the point in time where we can go back and do that now.
So it's gonna happen right here.
I think it needs to.
Then in our communication with the department heads, we might want to emphasize, I would think, that we're looking towards lean.
Yes.
I think our revenues are going to basically stay the same as they were this
But
year.
our expenses are gonna go up.
Mhm.
And the COVID has thrown a wrinkle in this. For instance, I don't have a public health proposal for you right now because we had all these grants dumped on us that affect this year, which changes reserves and all that. But then we got another grant that runs for 3 years. That changes a whole bunch of stuff. And I've been reluctant, other than to start developing a proposal until we have a public health director on board, which is going to be next week, because that's really, they need to be involved in that conversation. But they've been so busy down there that we haven't had a chance to even figure out. We're still trying to figure out which grant actually paid for what program, because every grant has the same name. Cares. And
So with that in mind, I think, Debbie said a lot of our continuity is going to be trying to pattern after what worked for the past year, which 2020 wasn't a typical year by far. But if we can look back historically and see an expected pattern, that's what we need to at least start with this, knowing that 2020 actuals will look very different than a typical year, and 2021 going in may still be not typical. So your budget isn't once it's adopted, you can amend it. You want to do so thoughtfully. And you want to make sure that what you're going in with is both lean and reasonable. And that's your challenge.
Would the 9th be too early to have the first talk with some of the department heads?
I have a meeting that morning. I could do it in the afternoon.
Well, I was thinking if we could take, I mean, because not everybody's going to want to come see us, maybe I mean, Jack Rutter's department probably won't come.
Well, and I really think there's a lot of the departments that, every year you have some departments and their budget is basically the same as last year.
Mhm.
$100 more here, $100 more here. Those aren't the ones we need to visit
Right.
with, really. That all that is wasting our time.
Well,
and
that's what I'm
theirs.
thinking. Could we maybe get enough information gathered up between all of us to where we could have a talk with some of them on Monday afternoon and start weeding them out through that week? Cause that'd be a good week to get some of them done.
That is a good goal.
I think that would be fine.
So Monday afternoon, we'll have a meeting. We're going to determine which department heads you'd like to invite. So
And you're
they-
talking
they-
November 9th, Monday,
Yeah,
right?
Yes.
that's correct.
Okay.
So on your budget,
Ma'am?
on your budget reports, there's a chart in there that shows you the increase in their budget compared to last year.
We're
So
gonna do it
those are
in the
probably
afternoon.
ones that you want
Suzanne's
to
got
focus on more,
Right.
Meeting.
And we need to look at that.
that
hard
chart.
before-
1 o'clock.
Mhm.
1:00. That okay?
Yes.
Okay. And we've already had the conversation with the sheriff, but that was on 3 specific items, not his overall budget.
I think he is one that we really need to have more discussion with.
Oh, we will have, but I mean, we hadn't even talked about everything else that happens over there. We just saw those 3 asks, radios, cars, things of that nature. And the 217
Yeah.
body camping. So there's probably 2 or 3 departments that are really kind of critical in terms of, and don't forget the airport. Because that could be a big ticket.
Yeah, they have like mini grants. I can see that they're budgeting for some expenses based on grants, but I need to ask them what type of grants they're expected to get revenue on because that hasn't been plugged in.
They don't have a clue.
So we
Right
have
now.
to make sure we have the revenue side and the expenditure side of the
And they're in that
grants.
process right now on one grant, but
Yeah, we had some technical issues that are not resolved yet on getting that grant submitted.
I believe that,
We,
and that's not yet. We have a mini grant that I thought we submitted for the fencing. And I don't know that there was any movement on that. That thing just kind of fell off the table at the airport board and with Jay, the manager, when he quit. And I don't know where we are in the application process on the manager. We advertised, we've gotten applications, but we haven't.
I know it's advertised as a part-time job and
Do we have applications?
I know there were 2 last I knew. I don't know if others
Okay.
have come in.
Is there any reason why we don't go ahead and proceed on that so we can have that? person
I'll
at the
follow
table?
up on that because I don't know that answer, but I can find out.
Yeah, we need to get that.
If we get that spot filled, then that person could be in the process right now instead of hitting them
Yes.
after we've already made these decisions. So we're gonna have meetings the 4th, the 6th, the 9th. These are work session meetings.
Yes.
And then we'll have our regular meetings on the 12th and the 24th because of the holiday schedule. We're gonna face similar things in December with holidays.
And you'll have a special meeting December 9th, and then your regular meetings are, your regular meetings just disappeared.
Should have one.
Well, okay,
The
I
16th
don't,
and the 30th is what your regular meetings are slated for.
Right.
I was just looking, I can't see the
I
yellow
know.
from here and all I was seeing was the green and I'm thinking that's not right. I don't have one on my calendar on the 16th.
That's when it should be.
No.
Is when it
the-
should be. Is that one that we,
That's your regular meeting.
Yeah,
It's colored
That's
up
your
there.
regular meeting.
Can't hardly see
Okay.
it, but it is marked.
okay,
I will work on your calendar because some weird things just happened instantly here. So
You'll get us cleaned up, right?
will.
And we know that we don't have meetings on Saturdays.
yes, we all know that.
All
And
right.
thank you for that. Okay, that's a good start.
Okay, so we've got that. Are
Most of us
we
are-
done on the
I
next
know.
steps conversation?
Oh,
Debbie, was there anything else you needed? for
no, I
direction?
think I just need direction so we
Okay.
could get this done.
Have you got enough direction? for
I'll
the
just
next
make
meeting?
scenarios and have them ready by Wednesday.
And I'm going to do that legal notice for the public hearing on the special meeting December 9th.
Right.
And that was our statutory critical. care.
That's what we have. So that's a bookend moment.
Yeah.
Okay, or date we gotta get to. Okay, anything else? You wanna go back to work?
I gotta go back to work.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Dixie, I'm sorry you've had to sit here and cool your heels on all this. Come tell us what you got. Somebody wants to de-annex?
Yeah, I will give you an update on the de-annexation. I was actually hoping to do a resolution for today, but then when the deadline for getting the stuff to you in your packets changed, I didn't make that, so we're just going to do an update today. I will provide you with all the packet information so you can look it over at your leisure as we go through it, but I'll probably have to come back again in a couple of weeks to get a decision. Anyway, just to give you a background and history on it, in 1999, there was a PUD, or Planned Unit Development, that was approved called South Fork Ranches. Jump forward to 2005, South Fork Ranches requested a plat change or rezone for this one section from 2 commercial lots, which was, I'm sorry, I jumped around. So Big River at South Fork Ranches is the section we're talking about. They requested a rezone for, it was originally 2 commercial lots, and they had it rezoned at that time to 15 single-family residential lots. And this was approved by Resolution 2005-30, which I gave you a copy of there. And the original plat of the 2 commercial lots is attached to that. Then in March of 2006, a resolution was signed by the County Board of County Commissioners accepting the final plat for Big River at South Fork Ranches. That's going to be your next resolution there. And they, at the same time, they did send out a letter stating that they accepted the final plat, although they were not pleased with the way the road was constructed. It didn't meet the county standards at the time. Here's, it's a 40-foot road and not a 60-foot road. We don't have any room to turn around an emergency vehicle in there. In 2010, the county was made aware of a legal case between South Fork Ranches and Sterling Properties by way of letters that were received from both sides' attorneys. Copies of these letters were found in the file, and a note that they were forwarded to the county attorney at that time. I don't know if the county responded or participated in that court action at all. I can't find any records of that. 2013, the courts found in favor of Sterling Properties and ordered the de-annexation of lots 1 through 15, Big River at South Fork Ranches. They backdated it effective May of 2010. All of this is just historical information for you. At that time, no new plats were recorded with the county and no records were found to acknowledge this de-annexation within the county. In fact, in 2015, the BOC signed a resolution number 2015-5 that corrected the name on the plat of the 2000, or the name that was listed in the 2005 resolution. At this time, 2015, the county still referred to this as Big River Way portion of South Fork Ranches PUD. That's stated in that resolution. So bringing us up to today, in early October, I had a contact with Terry Weaver. He let me know that they wanted to go ahead and start moving forward on development on those 15 lots in Big River Way. They now wish to do 9 of the 15 lots as condo lots. So some of those lots would have like 4 units. Some of the lots would have 3 units on them. I have included with your stuff there the email chain that I've had with Terry over the last several weeks. I talked with Ryan Dunn, the county attorney, and it was his recommendation that I bring this into you guys to seek your direction on how you would like to move forward with this. It was my opinion, and Ryan agreed with me, that although the courts had approved the de-annexation, this never has been approved or acknowledged through the county, which is evidenced by that 2015 resolution we see. And Big River at South Fork Ranches was originally approved as part of a PUD. And if removed from that approval, then the county needs to be able to reevaluate their current plans using the current development codes. So I guess what I'm saying is the county never acknowledged it as a de-annexation. We think it's still part of South Fork Ranches PUD and therefore should be developed and follow the development standards of South Fork PUD that were approved at the time. If the owners are asking to be de-annexed from that PUD,
Start
then
over.
they're no longer under those standards that were approved. And
So we get our
Start
60-foot road, we take care of the floodplain issues that haven't been dealt with now that we have condos and all these residential properties in there.
we can
We're
look
not
at it
just
again and reevaluate everything to see how it meets our current codes and current standards. So that's my recommendation, is that the board maybe do, and Ryan agreed with me, his suggestion, that the Board of County Commissioners do a new resolution. We'd have a county attorney or possibly myself draft up this new resolution in which the current board would approve and agree with and accept the court's decision to de-annex. That would remove that 15 lots from South Fork Ranches.
I guess
And then the
my
current
thought
owners
is,
could apply.
if it was court ordered, do we have the option of saying we don't approve? If it was ordered by the courts, can we say we just choose not to recognize it? I don't think we can do that.
That would be a question for your legal counsel, for Ryan. I don't know the answer. When Ryan and I talked about it, he was a little surprised that the courts in 2015 or 13, whenever it was there, hadn't asked for the county's input on it. And then maybe when it was decided to do the de-annexation, the court should have required them to file a new
There
plat.
may be judicial error there. I'm not familiar with Sterling Properties or South Fork Ranches, so I don't know what the issue was in the litigation.
Right.
Secondly, you don't grandfather undeveloped land.
Right.
So our current codes would be applicable no matter what we do going forward if they're going to change what they were doing. Have we heard anything from the principals in this?
From
The principal being the developer.
Terry Weaver is the developer. You can read through his emails there.
That's his packet here, Lucy. He's changed.
The very last packet, yeah, is the chain. And if you go all the way to the end of that one, I pitched my idea to him, told him I had to come and talk to you guys, but that was what I was thinking needed to happen. In his last correspondence, he says that he was hoping they could just amend the current plat and remove South Fork Ranches and change the name of the plat. During the amendment process, I was planning on requesting the approval of building multiple units on 9 of the plots. I do not understand the need for creating a new subdivision. We are basically using the same plat and engineering that was previously approved.
But they're changing, they're going from single family residential to multi-family.
To condo units.
Condos, which is totally different.
Right. And they, originally back in 2000, they were approved to be tied into the South Fork Water and Sanitation District. So I think
South Fork.
By South Fork, there is a letter in there that South Fork, but I think, at that time, my understanding would be South Fork was thinking we had 15 residents coming, not
Well, that's a conversation for South
big.
Fork.
So that would be another part of the renewing it that, they would have to bring South Fork up to date and see if South Fork still wanted all these units.
We use the term de-annexation. They're not part of the city.
No.
So what do we mean by de-annexation?
That was a whole new term to me when it came up.
I'd call it a replat.
It's from the PUD because the PUD is considered a unit and they're de-annexing from that.
From that
PUD.
unit.
From the PUD.
Not, not from a government.
Right, a planned unit development.
Right.
Okay. And so they're going to get rid of the planned unit development,
They
which
have.
all of this stuff was approved. This is a reset.
That would be.
Well, and I would think condo units would be much different because you would need more parking, you'd need more,
We don't know.
That's why I suggest we need to see a whole new plat and a whole new design plan for it.
And 60-foot road. It's our chance to get it. Right?
a road that I would need to talk with Pat to see what the current road standards are, because that's how we wrote our code this time. But yeah, we need to consider a road where you could turn a fire truck around, a cul-de-sac, a turnaround, something at the end of it, so that emergency services. So that would be my suggestion. Like I said, today was just an update. If it's your desire for me to move forward on that, I will work with someone, the attorney, or somehow to get a resolution together.
Well, first, you're gonna have to figure out what our legal standing is, why the court did what they did and didn't. There's a question there. Ryan raised a question about why the court did this but didn't consult with the county and all that sort of thing. So we need to get clarification there, so we're not taking off in some direction where our starting point was wrong. Why were we not there to say this worked for Desmond, whatever was doing whenever?
I'm not sure I can get an answer to that question. Like I said, I know that the county was made aware of it. I have copies of those in the file of all the letters, and actually a letter here, it's dated December 20th, 2010. It is addressed to Bill. I'm assuming that is Bill Dunn.
Right.
It just says the following cover page are letters that we discussed last week regarding Kevin Ames and Big River. Then it says, the letter from Bern, Figa, and Will PCs. It's 9 pages, and the letter from Gilbert and Wilcox, and it's from Rose, signed by Rose. So I'm assuming Rose Vanderpool. So I know the county was aware of it.
This was a quiet title action, right? That's what it says.
I'm not sure which
The
one you're
complaint
looking
of
at.
Sterling Brothers for decree of quieting title and to answer the counterclaim from Southport Ranches. So we have quiet title action
Oh, okay.
going on, and it appears that there were some lien issues.
Right, because Sterling Properties hadn't paid the homeowners association dues for those 15 lots. So there was a lien for the back years.
So there's a homeowners association, which is part of the PUD. Well, I have an attorney look at it.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
I'd have the attorney look at it.
I've had Ryan look at it. Ryan's the one that sent me to you.
Okay, but we have a new attorney as of Monday.
Okay.
Maybe as of today. So just an addition for your knowledge, Dixie was sort of the first one to get caught in the new deadline procedures for packets. And my goal is to never ask you to take an action on something you haven't had time to digest. And when you're being presented with it now, this is a prime example. It's complicated, it's legal, there's a lot of different factors involved. So when it comes to you next time in your packet and on your agenda, that gives time for legal counsel to have that review and a little more guidance toward you. We hope it gives time for legal counsel review.
What's this do to you, Dixie, in terms of timelines and requirements that you have?
Mr. Weaver, as you can tell, has been corresponding with me since about the 1st of October. He's just anxious for a decision so that he knows which way he needs to move forward. So for me personally, or in my job, it really doesn't do a whole lot. It's just a matter of getting an answer back to him as to what he needs to do.
And if Ryan's recommendation was a resolution to essentially acknowledge the court's decision, is that right?
Yeah, that was Ryan's recommendation, was the
That's,
resolution to acknowledge and accept the court's decision. And then that would allow them to then reset or reapply for the new subdivision.
Are we confident that we
Procedure.
can force them to apply for a new subdivision?
That would be a question for Ryan.
Okay, those are the kinds of questions we want before we pass any resolution.
Well, this will be on your agenda next time. All of the documentation that Dixie wants to provide, I'm assuming everything from today you'll include, and then there might be something additional once we have a chance to connect with Ryan when he's back and get a resolution to you.
Well, connect to Ryan or
now Nancy.
Nancy.
Okay.
So, thank you, I think.
Thank you, I think.
Okay,
So can I interrupt you, John? Sorry, we need to go back to the San Luis Valley Healthcare Coalition paperwork.
Can you come forward?
did I do something wrong?
No, not at all. So, was getting ready to scan this in and look at it, and my apologies. I didn't look at the document after I talked to Kurt. My understanding was this was the $25,000 COVID agreement, and it's not. And I didn't print it, and I didn't put on letterhead. So that's where I'm gonna have to, if they ask future things, I will print them. So I know exactly what is given to you
Which
guys.
one is it?
This one's the $100,000 one.
Okay.
That's what I read on there. I
So,
thought, well, I
That's
I
my
must not have the
apologies.
other
I
copy.
didn't open it back up, the email afterwards. And then because I didn't print this, I hadn't seen what you guys were given for that part. So I
It's like
apologize.
$95,000.
It's 95,000. And I'm like, there's no way I'm sending this out with, that's what you guys did
And
without.
that's still the healthcare coalition.
It's still the
and
whole, it's
the information
John's
is still the
additional
same.
question because there's a potential for that. My understanding is Kurt needed the 25,000. I don't know where it is. I tried to call him. He didn't answer. So I'll get back on the 25,000 with you guys. But I definitely do not
We
want
don't
you.
want to send that one out.
Well, we
Right.
can. He wants you guys to do it. They are under a time thing to do this, but I'm not okay with making a motion and you guys thinking it is one when it's actually something different.
So now
So
that we know, we can go ahead and approve this.
yes, if you could do that. But when I saw that, because I always double check things before I send stuff out and I was about ready to scan this and I'm like, yeah, this is not what you guys approved and I'm not about to do that. So that's
So
why
this
I
is
ran back over.
Different than what we did, but we can do this.
You can do this because what she's bringing to you is a clarification on the information on an action you took and you can.
But we do still have the 2 grants. and we
You have 3 grants now.
What's the third one?
This one's, so you have the 45,000 from
that one,
prior.
yeah, that's.
You have the
one that-
current year fiscal, well, technically, which got rolled into the current year fiscal.
Right.
You have the 25,000 COVID one that we need to figure out where that is. That I thought
That we haven't signed yet.
I don't know, John. That's the part that, because I'm not working in that office, I don't know if you guys have or not. I will
You talking
just,
about the office downstairs?
correct.
They don't know.
I'll work with the state. I'll get some
Okay. I mean, I
clarification.
can talk to them.
Then you have your new one of $95,315.
The $95,000 one, that's the annual healthcare coalition. No,
This is COVID money.
This is additional.
This is like-
Oh, okay.
Additional, I don't know, it doesn't say directly COVID, but that's where it's coming from. It's additional funding for the communities
We've got
to use.
$120,000 that floated down. this year.
Yeah, so it's a great opportunity for the San Luis Valley. It's not just for Rio Grande County, it's for the whole area. I know the Healthcare Steering Committee has not made a motion on this, but they meet on November 12th. And so even though that is one of the days I asked off, I'm still going to attend that meeting and they can, rectify that at that point and adopt this as well. But to save you guys, since you guys already have, if you guys can amend your other motion from being the 25,000 to this 95, we will be
We'll
good.
figure out, and we'll figure out the 25.
I think
Correct.
I would be okay with amending that motion.
But I was not sending that out when I was like, oh my goodness and
Well,
stuff.
I did. I read that while you was talking.
Oh, I wish you would have said something.
Well,
because
thought
I didn't have it in
must
front of
have not
me.
got the copy that had
Oh,
the
no.
25,000, so I didn't say anything.
No,
We got
this
the- we
email got
we
sent
kind of
later.
Identified it now, for point of clarification.
Yes, absolutely, but I'm
You're
not
our
sending that
point
out.
person at the healthcare coalition right
Yeah,
Good.
but I wasn't gonna send something you guys signed that was not what I had
now.
told you
Being our
guys.
point person, you volunteered to kind of help us.
I'm trying to help. It's a little challenging because it's not in my department and piecemealing and stuff,
Okay.
so.
But
there's a
right now
little hiccups.
downstairs, to my knowledge, they're not working at all on the
No.
healthcare coalition grant.
No.
And so they're kind of deferring to you. If we need to shift that, we need to know.
I'm okay till the new public health director comes on board and he gets his feet under him.
It's gonna
then-
take long, yeah.
And then we'll have some things, a little bit, but I just need the board's understanding to know that this isn't my normal things and I'm not having all the pieces like I would on everything else. So I'm doing the best I can trying to piecemeal it, so.
But I'm looking at it right now. It appears to me if we approve all these things, we won't have the details later because the steering committee is really going to determine how the money's spent.
Correct.
We don't have to worry about
No.
budgeting for that.
No.
We just have to make sure that we sign the proper documents, turn it over to you guys. You'll keep us informed.
And the other piece of that, John, is the county writes the checks. And so in the steering committee, and what I'm asking of the steering committee is they give the documentation, that documentation would come to the board for approval of passing the checks on to the
Right,
entities.
and that's, well, I've talked to Debbie because one of the things we're trying to work out is a line item breakdown on all these grants.
And that's why we're meeting tomorrow at 1 with her to work some of
You
this
guys
out.
can work that
So,
out.
but yeah,
Okay.
we needed
So
a
you need
big,
approval on this. So
big
what
change of
kind of
approval.
motion do you want?
You have a motion on the table.
Second. She already rescinded, changed it.
Okay. Do we have a motion? I've already signed that one.
You have already signed it, and just so for the minutes and everybody knows, it's the $95,315 contract, not the $25,000. So that way it's on the recording and that she knows what to get in the minutes.
So
So,
you've got everything you need right now.
Except the vote.
yeah, you got to vote.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye, okay. Now, capitalization, is this HIPAA, PCI, PHI, has anything to do with you?
It does, and Judy has graciously already shared it with me. I didn't see anything. When Debbie did the capitalization, she had sent it to me a couple of weeks ago. So from my perspective, I don't see anything that would hinder us, and I'm glad to see that we're getting some of that.
So
So,
we're good to go on that. You don't need any action from us.
nope, and I appreciate that. And I had already told Judy the last time I had to kind of stop you guys because it does impact me on some of it. So we've already worked that out ahead of
Got
time.
it covered.
Yep.
Okay.
We're good. So
Thank you,
I
Jody.
appreciate that. Sorry that I did not realize that ahead of time. So, but I just was not about to send that out without you guys knowing exactly what you voted for.
This is kind of like changing invoices after you've already signed off on the payables.
Yeah, no, 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 that would be bad. No. No, John,
It's
that-
happened.
Yeah, that's called fraud.
I know it.
Yeah, and so no, I would never, ever do something like that. So this would not have been sent out without the formal approval.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thanks.
So we're down to the consider adoption of policies.
Yes.
Where are we now after
Yes.
this?
So you have before you two policies. You probably know that between Suzanne and I, we're working on a big stack of policies, some of which have been mostly developed and some of which are in the very infancy of stages. So these were sort of the low-hanging fruit, things that were mostly done. The as Suzanne mentioned earlier, the HIPAA, PCI, and PHI had been adopted with prior staff members' names on them. So this action just changes those names to reflect Deborah and since our
However,
HR.
is it necessary to that the policy is already adopted?
It is.
And so I don't know that
I want to look.
it's necessary to go through and re-adopt the policy, that all that changes is who is the officer in charge of
and I
making sure the
think-
policy is followed.
I'm hoping I wrote a position in there rather than a name, but Homeland Security may need a name. Regardless of that piece of it, that is the only change is those names. So all we need is a signature and an acknowledgement of that for that PHI policy. The other policy is the capitalization and depreciation, and it is a new policy that Debbie developed. And as Jody said, she's already looked through it, and I am not a financial person to be an expert on that, so I'm going to defer to them.
And they recommend what we've got? Or what?
Yes, what you have before you is what Debbie has developed.
I gotta find it now, because my papers got shuffled.
You do
And
have a hard
the-
copy there. One requires a signature and one does not, and I'm not
The
sure.
depreciation policy is 22 pages long.
Yeah, I don't have it broken down by page length.
No, it's not that.
It's not in this pile?
No.
That's,
I
Okay,
think
here,
you- I think you may have
administrative.
given it back. to me.
That looks like it.
No, this is it right here. Okay.
That looks like the front page of policies.
This is, no, PCI, okay. This one does not have a signature tab on it. This
It
is
does not.
depreciation.
There,
What I will do is enter its adoption date on the header.
Okay. Do we need a signature on it?
I don't think so. Some of your other policies have them and some don't. But filling that in on the header will allow me to ensure that that was the copy that was adopted and the date. it was
The approval
adopted.
date, any revision
And if you
dates?
feel
and then-
better about adding your signature up there, you can do that.
Well, I don't know that it matters to me personally. And this is any item 5,000 or greater.
It's a capitalization and depreciation policy, so it does have to do with just capital assets. And I would be happy to bring Debbie in to explain that more to you if you would like.
I mean, I think it's self-explanatory, quite frankly.
It was a policy that, from my understanding, we didn't have before, and it was required by the auditors, and I believe it also has some Homeland Security implications.
Well, in any federal grant.
Yeah, right.
Because
not just-
all of the stuff that the Homeland Security audit brought up is stuff that is involved with every federal grant. Because it's been, I don't remember how many years the super circular came out. It's maybe 4 years. It hasn't been that long, but that's the federal document that tells about what is required.
Well, this covers everything, including federal grants and other stuff. But you got a construction in progress category, which makes sense. The depreciation policy, we're doing straight line. We're not doing any kind of accelerated depreciation on any of these. And so, and then you got your depreciation schedules based on class of equipment or improvements. So do we need a motion on this, I assume, right?
Yes, and you can deal with these individually or make a motion to approve them both at your discretion.
Okay. Well, on this one, you're both.
It is a little different approval since all we're doing is changing the name.
Okay. So there's really nothing else to discuss on either one of these that I see unless you guys have something. I'll take a
I
motion.
move that we approve.
Okay, we have a motion to approve, a second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 This is the one we've had a couple of dings on it because we didn't have this in place, didn't we? And past audits.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so this is information
Well,
security officer.
That one, I'm not sure that it has.
And this signature is
there's-
for
It's the
you
other one.
Yes, it
and
is.
you and Deborah. Okay,
It
can
is.
I give these to you right now?
You may.
Okay, so I don't have to sign them.
There you go. I thought you might like to see them in front of you.
Thank you. I have another question. We've got the, this, not on our agenda that I saw, could be, is the special session Fridays, it's minutes from the October 23rd meeting. We didn't approve those.
I put those under your consent agenda.
Did
So
you?
when you approved your
Okay.
consent, you did that. I hadn't had occasion to run that by you, but there's generally very
Oh,
little
there it is.
discussion around minutes, and I don't know why it needs to be a separate item unto itself. So if you're happy with it staying on consent, I'll keep it there. And if you'd like opportunity to discuss it separately, you can always remove it from consent.
I want to make sure everything I'm supposed to sign gets down to you.
I appreciate it.
Okay, so we've taken care of that. We're down to Commissioner Administrative updates. CBRF, Judy and I have been working on it. She's working with the First Southwest Community Assistance Fund.
Community fund. Mhm.
Community Fund. We're also been approached by a couple of businesses that are requesting assistance, and I'm working with Tanya. We'll be talking to her, Tanya Osley at DRG, about the request that came to her and us to see if there's anything that can be done. It's a fairly sizable request. The question we had was, one of the questions is, do we cap the business assistance portion of this right now? And then see how it goes for the direct cost reimbursement for the counties and cities. So we've got the two chunks, it's $966,000. She's submitting, Judy's submitting what, 87,000?
$85,000.
$85,000 reimbursement request right now, which covers the municipalities and the county.
Yes.
There's question about how do we pay for the PPE out of that? Which one of those, if any?
And that's not been included because we're still
It's
dissecting that
right.
internally.
Right, so it's not included, but I meant to ask Jody because she paid for some on one of those invoices. Is that a reimbursable expense?
We can follow up with that.
So those kinds of things are going on out there, but we're ready to, I would say, hit the ground running. Judy's already talked to Marty and Bonnie about,
Would you like me to fill you in on that a little bit?
yes.
All right,
Take it
that was
away.
happening as I was even walking in the door here for the meeting. So the business assistance component is a separate chunk of money that we have yet to determine an actual amount for that separate chunk of money. But we do want to be cautious and protect our ability to reimburse direct expenses. So we don't want to make it inhibiting in that way. The business assistance portion, we had already been in contact with Kaz Walker for Southwest Community Fund, which is not particularly affiliated with First Southwest Bank, even though they share a name. Kaz's program, she has 15 different assistance programs going right now. She was very excited to hear that we may add this one to her plate, and she could help us fill the gap. So the businesses that may already be receiving some assistance from some programs still may have a big gap that we can help fill. So I'm working on developing application structure, forms, criteria, and as I'm doing that, Marty and Bonnie from Urged are also anxious to help us out. They would do a similar process. We would partner with them in the same way we're partnering with First Southwest to screen businesses and help facilitate getting the money in the hands of people who need it, businesses who need that. So I'm still needing a contract to be developed that I will run by some attorney before I'm done. And developing a little structure around, do we want to cap each business grant at a set amount? Do we want to cap for the whole program? Christy suggested a sliding scale based on the size of the business that we can consider. So if you're all right with John and I hammering out those level of details, we will just keep moving with it. If you have an opinion on what those dollars should be, I'm open to hearing that.
I'm fine. I'd like to be kept in the loop a little bit, but as far as changing anything, I'm fine with whatever you guys come up with. Just like know, so people call you, you have some kind of idea where to direct them and that kind of thing. So.
And really, that's my ultimate goal very, very shortly, but within the next few days, to be able to say, here's our program, here's who you need to reach out to apply for those funds and really get the word out.
And we're probably going to have 3 entities that we're working with.
Yes.
That will provide technical assistance to the applicants, kind of vet them, screen them. And then we may have a 4th on this one particular request, working with DRG, which could be a sizable request.
But all of those partner entities, I have one yet to reach out to that I will still do, and they're very excited to help out, and they're seeing a lot of potential for good use.
And the other partner entities would be whom?
The First Southwest Community Fund,
Right.
and the Urge. And then there's a private accountant that I have not yet spoken with, so I don't want to blast her name publicly if she hasn't agreed to do it yet.
Yes.
And then DRG, the contact from DRG punted that to Urged for that part of it. So DRG may be involved for one particular large request that you're working with.
Okay.
But it sounds like Tanya just delegated, punted is the wrong word, delegated it to
Okay.
Bonnie.
And I haven't had a chance to talk with her, nor have I talked to the principal since they had the conversation with DRG. So I don't know.
Well, there's a lot in motion, and the initial reimbursement request that I literally am ready to hit send on as soon as I get back to my desk for 85,000-ish. It covers the county's direct expenses with the exception of a couple of things you mentioned, and each municipality in the county, it covers their expenses that they were able to identify and capture for this first window of time. We know they're going to have more. So there'll be more coming in on those.
Good. All right. Is there anything else before we take up our executive session?
I have nothing. And I move that we move into executive session pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 4D to discuss specialized details of security arrangements or investigations, and pursuant to CRS 24-6-402 4E for the purposes of matters of subject to negotiations and instructing negotiators. In that same executive session, we will also be under CRS 24-6-402 4F for personnel matters, specifically to discuss administrator applicants.
Okay.
And just to clarify, those are 2 separate executive sessions.
2 separate executive sessions.
That will run consecutively.
Yes.
Okay. So, may I have a motion?
Second.
Second, all in favor? All right, okay, we've adjourned the meeting and we will reconvene for the executive session.
And do you anticipate any public action after the executive sessions?
The only, well, I don't know. Do we have to do anything in terms of subject, identifying the negotiators or instructing negotiators?
You do that in executive session. So the nature of that first one is regarding security.
Right.
And it's a contract. So during your executive session, you can identify someone in your
Okay.
session with authority to sign
And
that
then there's a
contract.
potential of something on the administrator applicant, so would be
Okay.
public.
So we may be back, well, we will be back in regular session one way or another, and there may be some action
Maybe
regarding the applicants at that point. Okay. Just to be clear to the public. All right, we're ready to end this portion of the meeting.